Hello, hello. It is Wednesday. And it's time for Susan to clean up some of her messes. And one of those messes is my gigantic stash of ready to do covers, and they're taking up space. Hello to my lurkers. Hope you are having a happy day. Remember these guys I've worked on for a while. I was going to not do another gluing day, and I apologize for that, but I need to do it. And I can chat about some stuff I've been figuring out while I've been cleaning the studio. So the reason I need to do it is because I have a huge stack of these preformed bases that I want to glue to. And it's time to use these things up. Hey, Carla, I could not believe your post today. Whoa. I guess the important question is, did the ozone treatment help your mold issue that you've had there at the house? Because, wow, that is freaky the way it changed the color of your stuff. Yeah, so this is, oops, these guys aren't folded right. Well, there I go, getting ahead of myself. Let's do this batch because these guys are already folded. Hi, Neferkit. So I'll have more time to chat because I'm going to be just doing simple, not having to think very hard stuff because I want the space. I've got a huge stack of these bases folded, and I have a huge stack of book text, and I just want to get things ready to go. Hi, Franna. And whoops, and then the lights are going to start rebelling on me. I had to put some deli paper over my lights because, man, they were hurting my eyes. Oh, man, that stinks, Carla. Oh, I mean, I sometimes have mold stuff that I have to deal with the different plant stuff that I work with. And, I should have gotten one of my things to glue on. I was being so good getting prepped. Let's see, I can use this. And the smell, and of course I get sick with the smell. I'm sure you do too. We seem to be sensitive to a lot of the same things. They say the mold is dead and safe. Ugh. Yeah, I hate it. We had to do my studio wall before we did the whole studio stuff, and they kept saying, oh no, we'll paint over it. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. I'm like, no, you guys need to clean it off first. But I am so excited about all the stuff I'm doing and cleaning the studio. I am just amazed. Oh, and then asthma makes it worse. Yikes. Yeah, that's not good. Not good at all. So, geez, and it sounds like it's a place that you like living. So having all those other issues to deal with is not good. Let's see. Well, I can't say that I am near the end of my studio clean out, but I can definitely see the light at the end of the tunnel, at least in the studio part itself. I still have to go after the fabric closet, which is next. Oh, that's what my guy used, was bleach. And then they said when they paint over it, and to be honest, I mean, after the bleach treatment and then they painted the room, it's been fine. But we also have the issue out in the garage, and I'm trying to set up an art space in the garage, and we're going to have to deal with that when we're at a point that we can deal with having people in close contact again. Who knows when that's going to be. Oh, it's always something, right? Always something. Well, I am a big proponent now of knowing what you have in your studio space, because I cannot believe the things that I have found in this clean out. And I know I put the studio together really fast once the room was done, and I hadn't really taking a look at everything since we moved in. But man, I got some good stuff to play with. I can't wait to get back to work. I found so many dried flowers. I thought, I was kind of disappointed because I just didn't have that many dried flowers. And I have to remember to grab them when I go to other people's houses that don't worry as much about saving them for the critters, because around here, I try to not cut the flowers. I let everything go to seed for the pollinators and the birds. Well, the pollinators get the flowers and the birds get the seeds. But I found a whole bunch of flowers that were dried and so many leaves. Lots of eucalyptus, which is wonderful to use. Hey, Kendo. Yeah, Carla, that photo change was, but I guess, I guess it makes sense. The air and the chemicals in the photo, but it was really bizarre. Science is really interesting. It's like I'm fascinated by how all the different like distress things and Lindy sprays and stuff that react differently with water, and then you mix the two colors together and they react differently, or different pigments alone act differently. I was using up all my India inks, and the black and white reacted differently than a lot of the other colors did, and I have no idea why. I guess how much pigment is something. So what is everybody else working on today? I figured it was okay to do something simple and easy because then I could chat more. And the one thing I want to say in chat is use your stuff. Man, I feel really silly about going shopping continually because I have so much stuff. I just need to use that stuff up, and it's just been really fun to find the things in the studio and be excited about using them. And if there's stuff that I'm not excited about using them, then I'm passing them on to somebody else. And the other thing is keep your stuff together. I had dried flowers in like 5 different places. No wonder I thought I didn't have anything, because they were all over the place. Hey, Nash. So what is everybody working on, huh? I am still in clean out mode, but I'm trying to work. And I have to say, looking at all the dried flowers and leaves yesterday, I have super itchy fingers now to go to work on some nature journals. And so some of these might end up being nature journals. The reason I'm doing the book text on here, before somebody asks me, oh dear, what did I do? My lights are so bright that I can't see. Well, darn, I can't see where I put my little, my previous ones. Wow. So I cover these with book text, and then I put sheer fabric over the top of them. How can you lose something that quickly? I guess I'm an expert. So if you imagine this as sheer fabric going over the top in different colors and stuff, well, now it's going to bother me. I'm going to have, there they are. There they are. So depending on what fabric you use, stamps on, oh, I love to stamp on fabric. So this is one piece of fabric, and you can nicely see all the book text through here. And so it's taken a kind of flimsy piece of, it's almost like thick cardstock. This is, well, no, not cardstock. It's a little bit thinner. This is from picture books, but these are not books that have been taken apart. These are galleys. And so when you put the fabric, sheer fabric over the top of it, you can see the book text. And then this is my favorite way to do it, because this can be left as a cover just like it is, or of course I can build something on it, but you can see the book text in places. And these are just little patchworks of my shears. And this is like my favorite lately. I'm on a kick of doing these. Yeah, I stamped a bunch of deli paper recently, and then I realized that I needed to stamp some more fabric too. So doing it on linen is nice. I save all my little, when I would go to the thrift store, which I'm not doing anymore, but when I go to the thrift store and you get things that have the hems at the bottom, like old curtains, linen curtains were really popular, and I could find a lot of those. And then the hems at the bottom were perfect for tabs and just little trim pieces that you could stamp and use in the journals. And the reason these things are all torn is because sometimes I just get an idea in my head and I go with it. This is the reason I have so much of a mess to clean up in the studio, is I get obsessive about stuff. And I do so much, way more than I need to. You know, it's better because what happens is then you do all these make ahead, you get all this stuff done ahead of time. And then if you're like me and you haven't properly set up your storage situation, you forget what you have and you can't find it when you need it. So then you make more and it just sort of keeps complicating your life. And, you know, I mean, this is a huge stack of book text, and that's not all my book blocks. That's just stuff that I happened to do in front of the TV one day. And, you know, it's not going to take that much to do these covers. Let's see. So why do I have so much? I don't want to have so much stuff. I want to use stuff up and, you know, by putting it into journals and some art pieces. And yes, I have a lot of itchy fingers lately. I want to work on a couple nature journals to use up those dried flowers and leaves. And then I have some mixed media pieces that I want to do, and I've got some sewing I want to do. Never ever have enough hours in my day for all this stuff. But I get up in the morning and I do the things that I love doing, and I am really lucky to be able to do that. I do hope everybody is being safe and well during these times of craziness. Yeah, it's just really fun to have that little bit of book text showing through, and then you can build up. Of course, those are just my bases. You know, I put more stuff on top of the cover sometimes. All right, that's one. And I'm not going to worry about, whoops, I see a little bit of blank spot. I'm not going to worry about cutting off the edges right now. I'm just going to pump through these and then let the glue dry. And then I will cut around the edges. And then I do the same thing with my little bits of patchwork pieces, which I really think I like the patchwork ones better than just one solid piece, unless I'm going to build up the cover to something else. It just all depends. Yeah, and this is a case of I just couldn't throw away. So these are all, you can see, picture books. So if you took apart a picture book, this would be a typical size, and they make just enough that you can fold in the sides and you can have a pocket on each end. So they make really simple single signature covers. How do I preserve the dried flowers? Depends on what I'm planning on doing with them. So I can, if I don't have any flowers right here, but let's pretend. Okay, so maybe I'll have it, I'm going to put it in a journal and I'll just put the flower on here, and I'll put a little bit of matte medium underneath the flower and on top of the flower. And then you can, if you want extra protection, you can take tissue paper, you can take deli paper, you can take the a single ply from a napkin and go over the top of it. Depending, sometimes I just leave it as it is with just the matte medium over the top of it. I don't like a glossy thing, so that's one thing you can do. You can also sandwich it between two sheets of something clear, like I did. I have a video, I think it's Summer Love Reboot is the video, and it's a real short one showing some ways of doing that, where you can take page protectors, you can take Ziploc bags, you can take acetate sheets, and you can press in between there and sew around them and make some nice ephemera that way. You can laminate them. Nina Rabina, I'm not sure how you say her name, but she had a really nice nature journal she did recently. And she was doing the thing where she put down a little bit of, I think she used Mod Podge, watered down Mod Podge, and then her flower, and then she did the napkin over the top of it. So just depends on how you're going to use them. If I'm going to just put them on a journal page, I usually just do matte medium and then the flower and then the matte medium. Leaves, you can do it on fabric, but it's a little, I don't know, the fabric, it's, I have hit or miss luck with doing it on fabric. I usually print my leaves on fabric or I do more work with leaves because I just tend to leave most of the flowers, since we have a native garden, I tend to leave most of the flowers to go to seed. So I don't usually think enough when they're nice and fresh to grab a few to press. So I do most of my work with leaves, which on one hand at least are a little less delicate. I do have a large amount of my California poppies that I have dried, and they dry so thin. I mean, they're like rice paper thin when they dry. So they are a lot of fun to glue onto things because they're so flat. They don't take up any space in a journal. You know, and you have to reach that happy medium when you're working with natural materials between, you know, making sure you get the pieces in the journal and then having, oh, well, look at that. That's not what we want. We don't want a clear one. It's a blank one. And getting, you know, things stick up. So you can do a little bit more bulky maybe on the cover. If your journal is just going to be more of an artist book that people are looking at rather than something they're trying to write in, then you can go ahead and not worry so much about things sticking up. I also found so many beads. I have so many beads. So I either need to start making a whole bunch of dangles, which I do need to make. And then I need to de-stash, put some of those in the de-stash. My eyes are getting so bad now that I'm probably going to have to let go of doing a lot of the smaller stuff. Checking all with chat there. So what other things do you guys like to do with your book text? I mean, of course, I make lots of tags, and I thought I was going to be working on tags today, but I just really felt the desire to see if I could reduce this stash some, because it's just, there's so much of it. I would rather have a bunch of journals waiting for me to sew and get rid of a couple more of these tubs of things sitting around the house, because what happens is then they're sitting all over the floor. So I have a bunch of tags from them, and then I like Rachel at Roxy Creations had a good idea years ago where she has a book that she glues, you know, she uses as her glue book. And then when the pages are all gluey, then she just goes back in and glues them a little bit more. And then those become her tag pages. Yeah, I do a lot of book page pockets too. In fact, I have not, has anybody here done an idea book, which I've seen a lot of people, Gail and others do? I haven't done that yet, but I'm beginning to think I need to, so that I remember some of the less common book page pockets. You know, and we can't ever seem to use all these guys up, right? We have so many. And hi, Shelby. I'm sorry I didn't say hello to you. Didn't notice you sneak in. So I have gone through a lot of my book blocks and just put them in another big tub, and they will be for making paper, which hopefully I'll start doing again in another couple weeks. I've got a bunch of eco dyeing I've got to do to use up all these leaves I brought home from my in-laws. We went ahead and we did have a visit on Father's Day with them, which was really nice. But I need some new eco prints. And I had planned a collage today. That was my thought. I was like, okay, I'm going to come on, I'm going to collage, I'm going to work on some of those tags. But I just, this was what compelled me, and you guys are usually pretty indulgent, so I went with it. I say there's no substitute for actually getting to know your materials again, because I'm finding things in the studio clean out that I forgot I used to like to do. And it was like, oh yeah, or save. And then rearranging things. I mean, I know I've said this before about putting the stuff that I use all the time up close, but it's also the stuff that makes me happy. I want to walk into that room and be real excited to be in there. And since I work with a lot of natural materials, leaves and acorns and flower petals and that kind of stuff in a variety of ways. So I've shifted so that instead of those things are hidden, they're up something I see when I first walk into the studio, and it makes me just so happy. I smile when I go in there. It makes me want to work, makes me want to keep my messes clean. That doesn't happen very often to make me want to keep everything nice and clean, but it does. Hey, Terry. Yeah, good shapes for cutting out on the Sizzix. Did you see Gina, her video on doing the window envelope page where she glued a few of her book pages together and cut some circles out and made some great with her die cut, and then made some really pretty pockets, window pockets. And she did it just by gluing a few of her book pages together, and then I think she did some gesso over the top, and then she ran them through her embossing machine. I thought that was a very clever way to use them up, and I'm going to try that. I have a few embossing folders. I don't have a machine, but there's a lot of things I can do with the embossing folders, just doing it by hand and a rolling pin. So that works. If you haven't tried that before and you want to, I bought an inexpensive embossing folder first to make sure that it worked, and it worked great. It just takes a little bit of power, and I figure I can always ask my husband if I need a little bit more power on the rolling it back, but you just roll it back and forth over the embossing folder and it works. It wouldn't work for dies. You need a little bit more strength, or maybe it would if you were super strong, but I'm not that strong. But I'm happy enough to be able to emboss a little bit. Gina Weissman. Shoot. Who remembers? It's Dragonfly something, isn't it? Is it Dragonfly Studios, maybe? I think you'd like the video, Terry. I thought it was very clever, and it wasn't, like a real time intense one. It's a great way to showcase some really pretty images. I'm going to give that a try. Although I'll use my hole punch to cut out my circles, which also takes a lot of power sometimes. That's the only trouble with having to use the hole punch, is sometimes you can't go through the really heavy stuff. But yeah, I always see, I had so much of this stuff ready thinking, oh, this is just going to really go through the book pages. And it really doesn't go through nearly as much as I thought it would. But that's okay. Anything that uses some of it up is good. Yeah, and I think I do want to make a bunch of base pockets, book page pockets, so then I just have to go in and decorate them. I think that's all covered. Let's just put one more little there. All right. Yeah, and I always think this goes so fast, but it takes a while to go through here. Plus using up some old crummy glue sticks, since it doesn't matter. This is all stuff that's going to get sewn through later anyway. Try and do larger pieces when I'm at the hinge there. Wow, the fog came in last night and it's still here now, and it is wonderfully cool. Can have all the doors and windows open, and there's just, it's terrific. It's actually kind of drippy, drizzling, I love that feel of the fog. So we had a couple fires in the nearby area this week. I especially like it when the fog comes in and gets the ground nice and wet for us. So how many of you like to work ahead, do a whole bunch of stuff ahead of time? And how many of you like to work on your ephemera as you're working on the journal. I like to get a bunch of the cover bases. I mean, I know that I'll probably do more things to the cover as the rest of the journal unfolds itself, but I like to get a base going. So I have and that's one of the things I've been doing, rearranging the studio so I could have all of those. I found covers in progress all over the studio. So now they're all on one shelf. So then when I decide I want to work on, I can just grab one. So all the gutted books now at least have some kind of a base fabric on them, and I need to make all those up before I gut any more books. Forgot to bring my water over today. Doggone it. Trying to think of more ways to use up fabric quickly, because boy, when I open that closet, I'm anxious to get in there for the sorting and reorganizing, but I'm also a little bit nervous because it's ridiculous. You know, I would just go to the thrift store and come home with more clothes to cut apart into fabric. And I understand now how easy it is to become a hoarder, because boy. Shelby, you know, I did a whole bunch of fussy cutting. And then, I don't know, well, I had a whole bunch of fussy cut magazine images from when I was doing more glue book type collaging. And I just passed those on to an art teacher friend because they were mostly magazines, and that didn't really work so well with journals. But the stuff it was like by the time I got done fussy cutting it, I was kind of tired of looking at it. So I don't know. I might be moving away from doing a lot of make-aheads. I like to have the bases done so I can grab a bunch of tags that are covered with book text, and then I can go from there for the particular journal. And I think that's like one of the key things for your workspace is, and maybe when you first set up your art space, you don't really know about how it's going to be for you, but you need to know how you like to work. Are you somebody that that likes to do that kind of thing, to have stuff done up ahead of time? If so, then take some time and make up a bunch of stuff ahead of time. If not, think about how you like to work. Like I discovered, well, I didn't discover, I reminded myself that I think in terms of color. When I'm starting a journal, the first thing I'm always doing is thinking about the color palette, not just the cover, but the entire journal. Is this going to be one that's in shades of brown? And if that's the case, then I go through the studio and I'm, you know, grabbing up all my brown papers and my brown threads and fabrics and odds and ends. And then, you know, after colors, it's like, you know, theme. Okay. If this is going to be a bird journal in shades of brown, then I'll go through my bird ephemera. So I've got all my ephemera is sorted by theme, and my papers and fabrics and embellishments, I guess, are all sorted by color, because that's the way my brain works. If your brain doesn't work like that, then my studio would make you crazy. You know, you have to think about how you work and what works best for you. I am discovering that I really like having stations. So there's different places in my different art spaces that I use for different things. There's the place I go for sewing. There's the place I go for gluing. There's the island, which for so long was just a gigantic disaster zone, is my thinking spot where I can lay out my projects. I can, if I'm working on a fabric collage or I'm working on a journal cover, I like to let things sit out for a while and contemplate them, you know, as I go by. So I realize I need to keep that space clean so that I can have the freedom to do that. Because when I don't do that, then it's very frustrating. If I try and force myself to decide while I'm sitting right here, like I'll probably rarely do putting a whole cover together from scratch on camera, because my process is such that it's, you know, it's days sometimes. And, you know, I'm a slow artist and I'm okay with that. We have different strokes for different folks, but I just have to walk by things a few times and look at it and see how I feel about it, change my mind. Kendo Crafts. Yeah, the boxes unpacked with supplies. I don't know how long you've been watching any of my stuff, but we moved here about 5 years ago, and all my art supplies had been in storage for a year and a half. And then we didn't work on my studio for the first year or so that we were here, because we were working on fixing up the rest of the house. So I really hadn't done any art for a while. And then when we started unpacking stuff, I came from a really big house with a huge studio space to a very small house with a much smaller studio space. And I couldn't figure out how to put and then of course I had too much stuff because I have too much stuff. And so trying to figure out how to unpack these things and find what storage works for me, I have to have everything out where I can see it. And having things behind closed doors or in boxes that I can't see inside of doesn't work for me. But I know I have friends that they have to have everything all nice and neat and tidy. And I'll do a studio tour when I'm done with all the revamping I've done in there. But I was really excited the way it's all coming together. Since that's the fold, I'm not going to worry about there not being a variety in there. It's going to be hidden. So it's really fun to look at studio tours, and I look at some where everything's all pretty hidden in boxes and tucked away. And I think, oh, that's really nice to look at, but I could not work in there. Hello, Lorna. Happy Canada Day. And to any other Canadians in the audience, happy Canada Day. Lorna, I'm working on these again, getting them prepped so I can make my little sheer fabric over book text, mostly because I want the space that the bases and the book text is taking up. I'm seriously contemplating the price of shipping all my scanning to you. I have so many. I have a ream. No, it's not a ream. I have a carton, a book paper carton full of scanning to be done. That's just the paper. And then I have another big basket of all the fabric and small things that need to be scanned. So you're in the middle of organizing your craft space. That's cool. And do you have a plan? I just kind of went willy-nilly without a plan. Now that I'm doing it again, now that I've been working here for a while, I have a much better plan. Ain't that the truth? Boy, glue stick companies. And thread. Although just before the pandemic really started, before all the shutdown stuff hit, I ordered a bunch of thread. So I've got my brown and beige and black thread that will last me a while, and still trying to use up a lot of old thread that was from my grandmother and my husband's grandmother. I've got all their sewing stuff, and I have way too much of the old thread, which you kind of have to watch because it can split. Yeah, just throw it on the heap. Well, the whole plan was, of course, that this studio rehab was not supposed to take me 3 months, but that's what it's taking me. And then we're going to bring the scanner into the living room. And my problem with the scanner is I need to be able to sit down to do it. I can't stand for hours. And I need to figure out how to set it up so that I can be sitting on the couch, and then I can scan while we're watching TV in the evenings. Since we, have a couple hours in the evenings where we're just kind of hanging out watching TV, that's the perfect time to do scanning because I don't have to concentrate. Yeah, having clear storage containers changed my whole art space for me. And having shelves to put them on. But in this revamp, I was like, stuff that I was using all the time, I had put behind. I have a few doors on my paper cabinet, and it was like I had the wrong stuff behind those doors. So revamp that around, and it's just, it's a lot of tweaking, and I'm taking a lot more time maybe to do some of the stuff than somebody else would. But you know what? I've got time. It's my life. And if I'm getting joy from reorganizing my space, I'm going to take the joy wherever I can find it, because we all need more joy in our lives. Oh, the builder alone. Yeah, well, I can't build any of the shelves, so I lucked out. My mother-in-law gave me some bookshelves, 3 bookshelves that fit perfectly on one wall in the studio. And then a neighbor gave me an ancient entertainment center that the contractor made extra shelves for, and that became my paper tower. And otherwise, I'm just a big shopper. Used to be thrift stores and antique stores looking for the right furniture. Luckily, I don't think we need anything else. Well, we're going to need a couch. That doesn't count in the studio. We need a couch, but I don't want to go furniture shopping right now. But I love, 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 love clear storage stuff. And that's what I have most of my things on or in. Oh, wow. That's fabulous that you can do that yourself. Yeah, Lorna, that's what I got to figure out. If I bring it into the living room, I've got my laptop there, and I think I've got a small end table in the garage that I can bring in that will put it at the right height. Maybe it would work on the floor. I'll have to check that out. Might be too low. And it's got to be some place where the dog's not going to bump, although it's so heavy that if the dog bumped it, I guess it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But yeah, I think if I do that in the evenings, then I'm not going to feel guilty, because it takes so much time that I feel like, I could be, working on a project, and instead I'm scanning. But if I can do it during TV time, then I'm not going to feel bad, because, it's TV time. Yeah, ours is huge too. I mean, it's my LaserJet printer, and I can't move it. Hubby has to move it. I have not had any luck refreshing a glue stick. Anybody else? I just normally I go through them too fast to have them get to that claggy point. I also, have learned not to buy so many ahead of time, because I used to buy so many, and then by the time I got to the last pack, they were in bad shape. Now I don't go through nearly as many as I used to, so I don't keep as many on hand. Yeah, the thing is like for me on my scanner, it's my printer, it sits on a perfect table in my husband's office most of the time. And it's at the right height to, I don't have to really do anything with it because it's wireless. So I just send things from my laptop from wherever I'm working to the printer. It's just when I want to use the scanner, the scanner part, I just have my husband carry it into wherever I'm going to be working. But I need to see height-wise. I don't know if the floor would work, but I like that idea. I just need to be able to sit down. Yesterday, I stood for so long sorting all my dried flowers and leaves. And in the studio, I've got a bamboo floor, which is wonderful and beautiful, but it is so hard that my back was really sore last night. I am not even making a dent, and this tub is so full of the book text that's all torn like this. I am really gonna have to collage the heck out of a bunch of stuff to use these guys up, or just give up and just toss it in the paper making bin, which there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I can, I'm totally fine with that. But since these bases, I've got so many of them already folded and stuff, I might as well get to this point. I tried covering them just with fabric, but they need to be stiffer, and this at least helps stiffen them up. And I don't like the feel of just Mod Podging fabric over stuff or matte medium over fabric stuff, because it just feels too plasticky for me. I don't like the feel of it. Yeah, and I did reach the point in some of the stuff in the studio where I just said, that's it, I'm done. You're going in the recycling. And I don't feel bad about it. The trouble is trying to not have a bunch of miscellaneous containers. Like, what do you guys do? You see a video, you make this little sample of this little bead or dangle or what have you. You have one of them, or maybe you have two of them. You don't have a whole bunch of them, but it needs a home so you can find it the next time you want to use it or go back and make more of them. That's what I'm having trouble with. Oh, yikes, Terry. Yeah, you want to be offline if you've got a lightning storm coming in. Take care and be safe. So yeah, I found a whole bunch of those sorts of things. I mean, templates, if they're paper templates, I have one bin that all the templates go in so that I can remember how to make something. But those one-offs where it's like, okay, I need to make this real quick so I don't forget how. And then they land somewhere in the studio and I never remember where they are. So I kind of have one, I don't want to call it a miscellaneous place, because that then means I just tend to just kind of throw things into it. So it's, I don't know, it's just the keeper of those one-offs, I guess. I'm trying to keep myself to just one miscellaneous basket and not a real big basket. Sample box, that's a good thing to call it. Yes, it's a sample box. Well, I made mine very small. I didn't want to make a big one because otherwise I was going to be so tempted to just keep tossing stuff into it. I still have a huge, probably a stack, I don't know, it's probably 1.5 feet tall of papers to sort through. And I imagine a lot of them can just go on the paper shelves, but I just don't know until I look at everything. And then there's things where I made a whole bunch of stuff ahead of time, and now I'm like, I mean, the bases of them ahead of time, and now I'm like over it. I really don't know that I want to finish them. It's like, no, that doesn't interest me anymore. So I'm, it's good to go through and just touch all your materials again. I was like the alcohol inks, or not the alcohol inks, I'm sorry, the Bombay India inks that I played with for the last few weeks. Wow, I had so much fun. And I don't know any of you guys that have been watching me, like in the lives, if you saw the video, but I showed a video of fabric, which was what I did with the very last of the bottles. I just kept adding water to my bottles to get any kind of color out. I had the most yummy fabric to play with. So then it's taken me away from, well, I want to do with paper now. Now I want to get out the sewing machine and put together a bunch of fabric journal covers. I think I could just make cover bases for ages and be very happy. Oh, with earrings, you would need to do, with all the jewelry you make, I imagine there's a lot of, samples that you have to look at. A DVD holder with drawer. Oh, I am so jealous that you can make the drawers and stuff like that. My husband can rebuild any of the computers you want to throw at him, but the woodworking stuff is not our forte. Isn't that something when you start to unpack and you find stuff? I mean, having my things be in storage for a few years, it was amazing to uncover stuff. And it was so exciting. It was like, oh, I forgot I got this, or I forgot I made some of the things. I found a box of stuff that I had made, I don't know, probably 10 years ago. And some of it was just like, okay, yeah, this stuff can just go in the garbage. But some of it I really liked. And I need to find a place to display my finished work that I'm keeping. And I need to find a place to display my collection of journals that I seem to be acquiring. Years ago, I bought a bunch of antique sewing machine cabinet drawers because I wanted to find somebody to make me some storage out of those. And they didn't make it with the move because I didn't have anybody to do that kind of work for me. But I'm pretty happy with the storage we have. I mean, the only thing I would really like to have, but I can't because I just don't have the room, is I would love to have a flat file for my papers. But when I think about it, I love the looks and the idea of opening those drawers, but they would all be hidden. So for me and the way I like to work, flat files are pretty to look at, but probably not the most practical thing for me. You know, all my paper is in open shelves sorted by color, and I hate that my big sheets of handmade paper I had to fold, but that was kind of like the trade-off to be able to get everything in one place. I like them when they're on racks and hanging too, but my studio space is very small. And although I'll have more room when I set up some space in the garage, it's not going to be my primary thing. Mostly I want to do my messy stuff out there, or the bulky stuff. If I ever get a die cut machine or something like that, it would live out in the garage space. Sewing in a signature for the second time. Did you sew it in upside down the first time? That's one of my things, especially when I've been working on other stuff and haven't been doing journals for a while. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is no big deal. I know how to do this. I'm just sewing in the signature. And then I look and it's upside down. Yeah, letting go of stuff is hard. One thing that helped me was finding a couple people that could use, like when it was materials that I was letting go of, when I found some people that could use the stuff that I was letting go of, it made it a little bit easier. But it's never super easy. Let's just see. You shouldn't have to think too much when you do this kind of stuff. And yet here I am thinking, and we don't want to do that. We just want to go. I was just being picky. Oh, lovely. Lovely you were able to chat with your daughter, Carla. I would like to have a chat with my son that I haven't heard from in a while, but he's got a birthday coming up in a few weeks, so I'm sure I will talk to him then. There was nothing like being able to throw those empty ink bottles in the garbage. They weren't, because they were ink, they were hard to rinse out to reuse for anything else. Plus the rubber stoppers were so old, they were breaking apart. So I didn't feel bad about throwing them away. But boy, when you finish something that you've been trying to use up, it feels so good. It's like glue sticks. Finish a glue stick, toss it. Yeah, for us hoarders, it's really hard to let go of stuff, right? Because as soon as we let go of it, we come across a project where it's like, oh man, if only I had that such and such. For me, it was like a lot of the garden stuff that I let go of when we sold our last place. I was really sorry that I let go of some of the stuff that I could have used here, but there's only so much you could fit in storage. Really going to be hard when I tackle the garage mess. I was out there looking for something yesterday, and I have a tub that's probably, it's 2.5 feet long by about 2 feet wide, 2 feet high, and it's completely filled with cardboard boxes. I do not need that many cardboard boxes to make journals. So I think I'm going to go through there and decide by size. I'll keep some that are the size that I like to work in and let the rest go. And one of the things I found yesterday, trying to rearrange things to fit on my shelves so I could see everything, I found 2 shoe boxes full of, when you get to the, I probably don't have one here, but when you get to the bottom of the page and, there's that blank space at the bottom of the page, I had saved pages that just had that little bit of blank space on them, because I guess I thought I was going to stamp on them or I was going to tea dye them. And I had 2 shoe boxes full of that. It was crazy. So all I did is I went through and I did save, I confess, anything that had that wonderfully yummy yellowed aged where you could tell it was from an old book. I did save those scraps just because they're lovely to use in collage, but I tossed all the rest of it and it felt so good. She loves planners and crafting by Beverly. Hi there, Beverly. Hi, Elizabeth. Why am I not gluing things down very much, Carla? Oh, because that's not the final product. So what I'm going to do, I have a whole bunch of this sheer fabric like goes on curtains. So then I can put that over the top and then sew all over it. And you can still see the text, and the sewing, of course, holds it in place. Or I can piece together my shears, and you can see the book text in some places and not in others. And I'm just adding the book text to give a little bit of strength to the cover, because this is just, these are from my old picture books. These are from the galleys that we used to use for advertising. So they weren't ever stapled together. They were already apart, but they were just the right size from the crease that was already there, that when I folded them in, I could end up with a journal cover with pockets. So, and I have a ton of this sheer fabric. So again, it's the using things up. And what I might do is just make a bunch of the covers and not fill them, and just sell the covers for people to do what they want with. So I just need enough glue to hold things down for me to sew on them. And I need to not think so much because you're not going to see that much of it. It's again just for some strength and interest. So Elizabeth and Beverly, what are you guys working on today? And welcome. Happy to have you join us. Sorry, I'm just doing boring little gluing, but what I like about glue days is that I can chat more because I'm not paying attention. I actually find it really hard to work on intense stuff in a live. I admire those people that can. I tend to get pretty focused when I'm working like on collage or something. Carla, the way you collage on camera, I don't know why I was going to turn that. That's crazy. I just can't do it. I can't do it well. I can't do it often. It's like more exhausting to me to do that than a lot of other things. It's a good time to kick back and relax then, Beverly. That sounds good. I want some more thin stuff. A little more interesting. Here we go. Yeah, Wednesdays are my kind of a kickback day because I do the live, and then I don't feel like I have to be super productive for the rest of the day. Although I am going to go in, and I've got a huge stack of paper on the island to sort through. But I'm excited. I think we're actually coming to the end of the big clean out as far as all the paper stuff goes. And then I had to make sure that everything was done in the studio so then I can take everything out of the fabric closet, which is going to be scary, and see what we can do with that. I don't know, Carla. I was impressed. You always seem to get a lot done in the stream and still stay in touch with people. And I don't know how you did it. I really don't, because I try on Tuesdays to think about what I'm going to do. And I really did plan on working on my collage tags, but I thought, if I can knock out some of these, because this is another TV project for me, if I can knock out some of these things so that they're not hanging over my head, it would feel so good. Mostly because I don't want to have to figure out where to store all the parts. I don't want to have to figure out where am I going to put the book text pieces, where am I going to put the folded bases, because I've already got another big stack of bases to use up, file folders to use. I mean, I am the epitome of the impulse shopper. I watch somebody do a video using file folders, and I think, oh, the next time I go to the dollar store, I better grab file folders. And I do. And then I come home, and of course I've already got 5 boxes or 5, containers of file folders. And I have to live to be a very old woman to use up this stuff. That's all there is to it. I need to live to be a very old woman. That's the plan. Oh, Carla, one of the paper boxes that carries 10 reams of paper. So it's like one of those huge, you can't even see my hands. I mean, it's huge, huge boxes, is filled with all my magazine images that I'm getting rid of. And they are heading to Southern California to an artist friend. Well, actually, they're going to head locally first because another friend's going to drop them off when they're going to a class. I was so happy to find somebody that could use them all. It was like this. I was willing to pay the postage to get them down there. I just somehow knowing that they had a home to go to made it so much easier to get rid of. I couldn't just throw them in the garbage because I had spent so much time, getting them ready. Although I have to admit, there was the joy in the process. And I have to remember that sometimes that's all it is. It's the joy that was in the process of finding those images and prepping those images. And that's okay. And maybe that's all I needed to do with that. But I also, kick myself because, wow, how much time did I waste? And I don't want to call it wasted time, but that's what it feels like sometimes. How much time did I spend fussy cutting stuff that I wasn't going to use, or napkins? It's like I was saying earlier, I fussy cut so many napkins that I'm sick of the images and I don't want to use them anymore. So that is something that's going to go up for sale eventually. Yeah, once I found somebody to take the magazine images, then I started looking for somebody to take the other stuff. I had another friend that was interested I had a bunch of steampunk stuff because I would see these videos about steampunk and I thought, oh, this is just really cool. And then I would buy stuff for steampunk and realize, I like looking at it, but I don't like to make it. So when she said she was interested in that, then as I was cleaning out more things, I said, well, what about this? Well, what about this? And she took a lot of my stuff. Then I had another friend who's an illustrator of children's books and a fine artist. She works in pastels, but she's got a lot of grandkids and she does art with them. So then I started asking her if she could use some of these different things in her art projects with her kids. And she said, yes. So now I've got like this huge box I've got to ship off to her. Luckily, it's still right here in California, so it's not far. But knowing that she can use them with the kids, it's like, okay, that's easy to get rid of then. I'm ready to let that stuff go. I don't know. For me, psychologically, that's what it took, is knowing somebody else could use it. And then as I pull stuff out, like when I pulled out those inks and I'm like, this was an impulse buy that I didn't need to make, but I did make it and I have them. And the colors I knew were beautiful, but I knew that it wasn't something I would use the way they were designed to be used. So I was really excited to play with them in the different ways, and painting on wax paper blew my mind. I just loved using them on wax paper. And now I think I've got about 150 pages to scan because they've got some of the most beautiful backgrounds, and I definitely want to be able to use them in my DigiKits. Kendo Crafts, thank you. I really appreciate you being here today. Good luck on all your reorganization and your building projects. Hope you'll come back. I'll be here next Wednesday. Yeah, I have another friend that when she cleans out her stuff, she takes all her excess down to the local senior center and drops it off there for them to use. Although I guess they're probably not doing any of that right now, but that's what she used to do. I don't know. Psychologically, it just helped me. I did it again. I glued down a piece that didn't have any writing on it. Bye-bye. Have a good day. Yes, if I'd have left everything big, I don't know why I tore a bunch of these things small. Oh well, it doesn't matter, right? It's all going to be covered up. You're only going to see a little bit of it. I do the same thing with mixed media. You know, I struggle those first few layers, which is just really silly because at the end, you know, they're underpaintings and you really don't see that much of it. But it's like, oh, I have to do a little bit more here and a little bit more there. It's like, really, just get it down. Just cover stuff up, get it down. You know, when I go to put the fabric on, if there's a hole, then I can just quickly add another piece of book text. And it's good sometimes to have the kind of stuff that you don't have to think too much, because it kind of lets your subconscious, it doesn't go to sleep. It just has it working on different things. So like I said yesterday, when I was sorting out all my dried flowers, my brain was just really popping with ways that I wanted to use them in a project that I have been trying to get started on. And now I'm like really excited. So I'm hoping while I'm doing this mindless gluing that my subconscious is working out a couple of things for me. The other thing I do, not at this point, because now when I save book text, I'm much more careful about it, but these are really old pieces of book text that I didn't pay attention to. And so before I put the fabric over everything, of course, I check for making sure there's no text that I would not want to have showing for everybody. It's like as I was sorting things, I found things like Catcher in the Rye, which I do not recommend using for backgrounds for tags. And One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And the books had, the pages were really wonderfully yellowed, but definitely not the kind of verbiage that you want to have out there on something permanent that you're going to sell. Well, Lorna, you're getting stuff done. You're getting journals done. I have got to get back to the actual finishing part of things. And this is part of it. I mean, just finishing prep stuff is a big thing. But I'm really bad at I'm bad at a lot of things, but two things that come up consistently. I'm bad at estimating space. Like, will this piece of furniture fit in this room, or will this car fit in this parking space? And how long time things will take me to do. I'm like, oh, okay, so I have 50 base covers, I can do those today. I was like, who am I kidding? No, maybe some people can do them in a day. Susan cannot do them in a day. Susan of 20 years ago could have done them in a day, but I have to tell myself as I get older, it's okay to work slower. Let's work on the things that make us happy and not feel like we have to be in a hurry. I don't want to be in a hurry to do anything anymore. Okay, except maybe to deposit checks. If somebody sends me a check, I like to deposit in a hurry, except you know what? I'm still slow at that because I got a royalty check a few weeks ago and it's still sitting on my desk waiting for me to deposit it. And all I have to do is take a picture of it on my phone. But yeah, this car will fit. Oh, and I have a small car. I mean, I have just a little, Honda. It fits in a lot of places, but parallel parking and I were never very good friends. And yeah, it doesn't work for me. And sometimes you see words that you can take care of right away. All right, we're just going to take the rest of this page off because there's too much in there that's bad. We're just going to lose that whole page. Yeah, that was not worth trying to deal with. Children's books from the past sometimes have language that nowadays would be totally inappropriate. Yeah, I can remember doing parallel parking when I had my driver's test in high school. It was not a pretty picture. Yeah, I have a bunch of antique children's books, and I just kind of was flipping the pages. It was one of the other things I did is I had all my books. I think I may have said this before. I had all my books mixed up. So I had all my books that were out of copyright that I could scan if I wanted to, mixed up with all my books that were okay to use in journals, but were still in copyright, so I couldn't scan. Now I separated everything out, and all my foreign dictionaries are in one shelf, and all my poetry is on another shelf, and all my other stuff that I just want to cut up is on 10 shelves. Yeah, way too many books that I can cut up and use. Although, really, can you ever have too many books? Well, this is from somebody who at our old house had a library with about 10,000 books in it. So we actually bought the house back then because we needed a place big enough for our library. That was the plan. We needed a place big enough for our library of books. So Carla, are you all done with I know you were doing a studio clean out and reorganization and stuff too. Are you all done with that? Well, my stack is going down a little bit. A little bit. I need to hire a kindergartner to do this, right? Turn them loose with a glue stick and let them just glue like crazy for me. Well, it's kind of hard to hire anybody to do much of anything lately. Still trying to get our contractor back over here to finish the sunroom, which is where my office is going to land. Yeah, well, the mold would totally be a distraction, that's for sure. And we're trying to dealing with the city to get a permit so we can have the electrician install a switch for a generator, because we are getting close to fire. Well, we're in fire season, really. It's just going to get worse from here on out. And so we're going to have planned power outages from our power company, and we really need to get a generator set up so that we can keep the refrigerator going. That's the main thing we worry about, and so that my husband can keep his work computer charged so he can work. And now the generator's out of stock, so we're waiting for the generator to come in, and got to fill out all the permit and take the city some money, because of course everything costs, and the city's doing everything remotely, so it's a little bit slower than usual. Yeah, I had a lot of that unfinished stuff too. Some of it was, samples, but I like the idea of a sample box. I couldn't think of, I need to have a name for something before I can use it. I'm weird like that. So a sample box now, and I know right where it is on my shelf. So that's good, because I have a template box for, the different folds and stuff I want to remember. And I do think I'm going to do an idea journal where it's just one journal that shows a lot of the different folds and pockets and stuff. A bunch of these book pages are from books that I didn't completely gut, but I tore apart for altered book or to do glue books out of, and they're not done quite in the way that I would do them for an altered book, because I do things differently for an altered book. So I think I might just rip the rest of the pages out, reuse the book board, and then just start tossing the leftover book text into the paper making bin. I had so many of the things in multiple places too. I got really frustrated with myself. It's like I had book covers where just the covers were done. The cover bases were done. I had it in like 3 or 4 different places. once I consolidated them, I realized, okay, now I need to either sell just the covers or finish the journals. But it also made me feel better to see my things in one place because I realized what I had accomplished. And I guess, even though there's a lot of half-finished projects, most of them I really like, and they make me happy to look at and see that, this was something that I did and I like it and I can do it again. So I think, in the middle of all this reorganization, it's important that we kind of give ourselves some slack because these are tough times, but also that we pat ourselves on the back for what we've done. There's a lot of people that talk about creating that never find the courage to dive in and start creating. They're battling perfectionism, which Carla and I are experts in that and can tell you that it is counterproductive. The whole idea about art is really about play and having the freedom to play and not be judged and not let yourself be judged on either the finished product or the process. Nobody can tell you how to create. You can only, tell yourself, oh God, I love these glue sticks. I think that was the last of the crummy ones. You create your way, and if it doesn't match anybody else's way, so what? Oh, I have the started signatures too. I have that. Right now, as I find things, I just kind of trying to put things together. Like I had baskets all over the floor, and it was just, okay, so all the images I find go in here. Any paper I find that, needs to be dealt with goes in here. Any three-dimensional item that needs to something done to it is going to go here. And then I just gradually went through each of the bins. And you have to be kind to yourself when you're doing that kind of a reorganization. I did a lot of kicking in the backside, and it was really wrong. I am the type of person that likes to bounce from idea to idea. And I'm always way behind. Like I'm seeing a bunch of trends of certain videos, and it's like, wow, that's really cool. And I want to do that. And I'll probably do it, 6 months or a year after everybody else has been doing it, just because that just seems to be the way I am. Like I want to make some ephemera folders. They were really hot, 6 months ago. That's fine. I'm working at my own pace. What was nice about deciding that I wanted to do it now is there are a bunch of people that have already done it, so I can look at other videos and get a lot of inspiration. But there's no reason to beat myself up and say, well, why didn't you do that then when it was hot? Because at that time, I didn't think I needed one. I didn't think I wanted one. And now I can think of how I could use it for me because of thinking about how I work. I've lost track of how many things I was like, oh, I got to do this like so-and-so, some famous person, some famous YouTuber, is doing something. And it's like, I have to do something like that. And I try to do it like that. And I'm so foreign. It just doesn't feel right. It's not something that I want to do more of. So you really have to learn to pay attention to yourself, your own process. You have to honor your own process. And then you have to think about, how that process is for you. How is that going to work? Maybe somebody else has a barn and they're able to lay out everything all at once and they have all these different stations. And, most of us don't have that kind of space to work in. One thing that I realized that was really important to me was to have a dedicated space for painting that was always set up for painting. My water's always there. My brushes are there. My jelly plate is in the drawer of the desk that I use for the painting. I can pull up my jelly plate. I've got like 5 jelly plates. I can pull them out and then they can stay there for weeks, because when I get in the mood to paint, I want to be able just to go back and forth all the time. But for other people, having that stuff out all the time would make them insane. So don't do that. Figure out what works for you. Don't judge yourself and don't judge other people. That's just makes it a lot easier. Yeah, I feel like I'm not too well in the recovering department of perfectionism, but at least I acknowledge it and I try and stop myself. I mean, some of the stuff I was saving because it's like, oh, I can fix this. And it's like, no, you could just, you know how to do it better. You can let it go and start over again, and that's okay. I did that with taking apart some stuff too. I found some signatures that I think I had done samples for a hop or something like that. And I was like, wait a minute, I don't like any of these. The papers weren't even big enough to I don't know. I just didn't like what I had done. Whoops, wrong side. So I tore the collage bits apart, and they went into my little collage thing. And the rest of the papers, I have another. What I was going to do today was make notebooks, because I found, okay, normally I would make notebooks with the little offcuts that I have left from, cutting something down. I found like just plain white tablets like you would have in an office. And I know when I got them for a project that I was making for promoting my books. So I don't know, probably 15 years ago, I found 3 packets of them. So each one's got like 10 notebooks in it. And so I thought, well, I'm just going to use a bunch of my old papers and make covers. But then I didn't have anything that was the right size. I was going to have to cut things down. So that might be next week's project, because then I can use up those notebooks, because they're small. They're like 4 by 6, I guess. So I can either fold them in half and make small little notebooks, purse size notebooks, or I can, sew them. I can sew them at the top. Yeah, they're about this big. So I can sew them at the top and make a bunch of notebooks that way, or I can fold them in half and make some notebooks that way. But there was more prep that I have to do for it. But I can't believe it. I mean, there's tons of those, and I have to have had them for 10 years, which means I've moved them like 3 times. I'm nuts. I'm absolutely nuts. And it makes me, the more you can use that stuff up or get it out of there, the more the guilt is gone on the money that you spent for something that you didn't use. And I hate guilt, because I tell you what, when I feel guilty about something, I wallow in it. And I do not like wallowing. Wallowing is like ugly crying. Nobody likes it. Yeah, we got to find whatever makes it easier for us to live with ourselves. I want to be happy when I wake up in the morning and I think about going to work on my projects. I want to be so happy. I want to be so excited. It's like, I can't wait to get in there and get to work. That's what I want. I don't want to walk in and say, oh, yeah, there's that mess that I forgot to clean up yesterday, and there's all that stuff that's haunted me for the last 15 years. No more. I don't want that stuff anymore. So if it's something I can look at and I can think of a really quick, thing to do, but for the most part, because I'm shifting to doing more, work with natural materials. And that doesn't mean that I don't still want to do things with stuff that I've bought or that I've made that are not natural materials, but I want to shift my focus. So I want to start using up that other stuff. And I don't know, I'm a broken record. I know I'm rambling like crazy, and I've only had like 2 big Starbucks, because my husband ran down to Starbucks this morning, and 4 cups of caffeinated tea. So yeah, I am highly caffeinated, which is good, because that's how I get things done, when I'm highly caffeinated. Oh, and I took allergy pills, because allergies are bad. So do you know what? I have never made a journal that big, 6 signatures. All of mine are 3 or less. Yeah, I like that part too. I like it when a journal is like 3/4 of the way done, and I can let it sit out. And every time I walk by, I just kind of flip a couple pages, see what I want to add. Oh, Lorna, that stinks. I'm struggling with my eyes. I used to be able to read without my glasses and look at the computer without my glasses. And now the glasses that they gave me for the computer are still not working for me. I'm glad I don't have to drive much anymore. So I think I need to think about what kind of close work I need to do these next few years, because I think I'm not going to be able to do a lot of the beading and hand stitching for much longer. See you later, Carla. Take care. Happy to see you here, as always. 6 journals with 2. Oh, okay, Lorna. Thank you. All right. You're not quite the, I don't know what I was going to call it. What would you call it? Jack Bunyan of all the journals. Although you do make big journals sometimes too. You know what's going to happen when I get into the fabric closet is I'm going to then want to make just all fabric books for a while because I'm going to fall in love with my fabric all over again. But I guess it's good to fall in love with your materials, right? Much better than wandering around your space saying, I don't want to work with this. I don't want to use that. And that is something, if I'm cleaning out and I pick something up, like I have a big thing with texture. If the texture feels wonky to me, it's got to go. There are some books, hardback books that they were making for a while with this really strange texture on the cover. And I absolutely couldn't stand it. I had to like use a towel to hold the book because I didn't want to feel that texture. I'm odd. Yeah, some of my meds affect my eyes too. And when I stopped taking some of them, the eye doctor was kind of surprised at what a difference it made. And I've got a supplement that I take that's got a lot of the oils, and it does help. But one eye is about blind, so that's kind of what's scary. Is it's like, okay, if you only have one good eye, you need it to keep working for you. I have a feeling I'm going to run out of book text long before I run out of book bases. And that's okay, because then I can just use some big things, or I don't know, maybe I'll just sew a few of these together, the bases together, and then they'd be a little stronger. They'd be more like doing an envelope journal, manila envelope journal. So, Lorna, what theme are your journals? Are you working on a theme, or are they just pretty beautiful journals that people are going to want to hold in their hands? I think the next one I'm going to work on is just plain nature, but it might be trees, or it might be hummingbirds, or maybe I'll do them all at the same time. I'd like to finish my hummingbird kit and then use it. Vintage lacy French. Ooh, that sounds pretty. You do those kinds of journals so well. Yeah, suckage to think about maybe only having one good eye. My mom's husband has lost his vision, and the adjustments that I listened to him going through have been really, really tough. And I don't want to go through that kind of thing. So I try to rest my eyes a lot. And tell you, the older we get, it's all this body maintenance stuff we got to do all the time too, right? It takes half of your day. It's just like, I got to do the drops for this, and got to take this pill, and then you got to wait an hour before you take that pill. And I'm looking forward to seeing what you create, because your journals are always so inspiring. They make me want to get out my fabric and play. I got a sneak peek at somebody working with one of your kits, Lorna, at a few pages, and oh my goodness, you are just going to love what this person is doing with your stuff. It is beautiful. Well, maybe I'll be there in time, quick enough to catch them when you first list them, because that's what you find with the people that are the really good designers. Their stuff gets listed in the middle of the night while you're sleeping, and you wake up and you see this video of all these new journals, and then you go to their shop and it's like, all sold, which is great for them. It's awesome. I love it when my friends' stuff sells right away. I like it when my stuff sells right away too. Because whenever you list something, it doesn't matter how many times you have made something for sale and somebody has bought it and loved it. you still get nervous and think, what if they don't like this particular thing that I did? Tuesday, I got to see a sneak peek at some of the stuff that Tuesday's working on, Lorna. And I think you're really going to love it. Wow, look at this. We are zipping through these guys, right? Okay, we're not exactly zipping, but well, it's your journals sell out quickly because they are beautiful. Beauty sells, let me tell you. I love her too. She's so wonderful, big heart, and then a talented artist as well. So she said she was working with one of your kits, and I said, "Ooh, I want to see," and it, like I said, it's beautiful. You're gonna love it. I've been trying to look for inspiration on Etsy and looking at some different journals, people that create nature journals. And some of the ones I find, I wish they had YouTube channels so I could see all the pages, because of course they only post a few pages on Etsy because you don't have that much room. So I did just order one from a gal in Russia. I probably won't get it for a couple months, but that's okay. Trying to find people that are working with dried flowers and leaves just to get inspiration from the way they do things, like Gibbet, which we all love, and meditative scrapbooking does a lot of that kind of work, which I enjoy her stuff too. I hadn't even looked at the time. Oh, an hour and a half. Okay, well, that explains why my voice is starting to go, since I forgot to bring my water over. Silly, silly Susan. Let's get something that's slightly different. I have no idea how many of these I've done, but any of them is progress, right? My husband just zipped out of here with the dog so she could have her walk. She has absolutely loved having him be home every day because they get more frequent walks together. And he is young with no knee issues, so he can zip her up and down the hills. They both come back pretty exhausted. And then Zoe has no trouble the rest of the day. She has trouble getting excited after she's had a long walk, which is nice because she's such a noisy dog when she gets excited. I made a bunch of envelopes with all the tracing paper and wax paper, and I was going to decorate them, and I thought, no, I'm probably going to wait and see what journals are going to go in. But boy, I'm sure pleased with the way those papers came out. I had to stop myself from, when I emptied the bottles, it's like, no, you do not need to buy more of the Bombay inks. The whole idea was to use them up. But I tell you what, I was so happy with the papers, I was tempted to go out and buy some more anyways. I didn't, though. I was a good girl. I did not. So Lorna, when you start with your Lacy French journals, where do you start? Do you start with a cover? Do you start with your pages? How do you begin? Tell us your secrets. No, just, share your process. I would love to know. You can't hear a thing because your son is making a smoothie. Covers first. So complete cover, or do you do like I just do a base? I don't do the final part of the cover until I see how the inside comes together. But I know Debbie Kipp from Kipp's Corner, she does all her beautiful, she's been doing a lot of mixed media covers lately, and she does the cover part first as well. Just the base. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I do. Because everything changes, I think I'm going to go one way and something happens and you end up going a different direction, which is I don't know, that's one of the exciting parts to me about this kind of creating is you just don't know where the journey is going to take you. Yeah, I started with some ephemera too. I would say, okay, I'm going to do, what happened with me is I started to get too similar. It's like, okay, I'm going to do paper clips, hidden paper clips. And then I made, each one's going to have, each signature is going to have 2. That means I need to make, if I'm doing 3 signatures, then I need to do 6 of those. And I'm going to do these little corner things on each one. And I realized I was becoming just too predictable, I guess is the word. Now I don't do that now. I think probably because some of the first journals that I did were commissions for the same person, and they were similar in that they were kind of memory books for all their kids. And then when I finished those, I just kept working in that fashion. It was like, oh, no, if I'm bored, everybody else is going to be bored. Now I try to make sure that I address something on every page, but not the same thing in every signature. Yes, I do the same thing with the layout. That's why I've got to get the studio clean so I have my island back. It can't just be a flat space where I just let stuff hang out. I have to lay all that stuff out. And even before I start to sew the base cover, I have, 4 or 5 different fabrics out that I think I'm going to work with. And then I walk by it. That's why I try to do several at the same time, because I tend to walk by things and it's like, okay, now I feel like I can sew these. Okay, now those I kind of know what I'm doing on the signatures. And I pull all the papers that I think I'm going to use to start as well, but those often change. Yeah, I do too much too. So I'm going to kind of force myself right now, kind of trying to, as I'm finding my mojo again, is I'm going to do just a bunch of single signature journals. So I won't be I don't know if it'll work, but the idea is that perhaps I won't be quite so tempted to overdo stuff. Yeah, I agree. If you want every page to look like a little piece of work of art, then it's hard for people to add their own stuff. I wonder how many of the people, though, that buy our journals are actually journaling in them, or how many of them are doing like I do when I buy a journal and keeping it for a collection and not writing in it. So I'm kind of thinking in 2 minds. There's going to be some journals I create that are the mostly bare journals that are for using, and others that are more like an artist book, so then every page is a work of art. It's not designed, it's an artist book. It's not a journal. It's designed for you to enjoy every page as a work of art. I don't know what makes the differentiation, and I guess it's probably only art critics that think about stuff like that. But I've kind of had the same struggle. It's like if it's going to be a journal that you're going to use, then it needs to be kind of bare bones. Whoops, something slid off. No, everything's covered. Oh no, I see where it slid off up there. And if it's just going to be something to look at, well, then why not make every page what you want? Why not make every page beautiful? You love doing the covers, or your regular overdone ones, because that's what you love. Yeah, that's kind of the way I'm kind of heading to, is I'm going to have 2 lanes that I want to work in. Plus, the more blank ones are affordable for the people that do want to use them and want to have a little bit of something, from their favorite artists, but that makes, we can sell them at a price point that makes them a little bit more affordable. Whereas the overdone ones that we enjoy doing, they become artist books. The entire book is a work of art, and they have to be priced accordingly. And, yeah, it's a limited market, but the people know what they're getting with something like that. They're not getting something that they're expecting that they're going to write in. We are of like minds, which is no surprise. So I've been wondering if it's worth making some blankish ones that are not using coffee dyed paper, but that's using maybe parchment paper or some other kind of a pretty paper inside. It would, again, make the price point a little bit more affordable for people and less time for us, because then we could save our coffee dyed and other dyes that we use on papers for other projects. I would not feel guilty. I think people know what they're getting, and people, because you have all your videos that show everything, and different people are buying them for different reasons. Collectors are not buying them thinking that they're going to write in them. I was able to grab a journal from Gibbed recently, and I think she called it something else because it's not a big journal. It's a very small thing. And it wasn't cheap at all because it only had a few pages in it, but it was something from her, and I admire her as an artist. So it gave me a way that I could support her a little bit and see a little bit of her stuff up firsthand. I will never write in it, even though it's got lots of blank pages in it to write. I will never write in it because I want to keep it as a work of art for me and inspiration. So I don't think we should feel bad about that. We need to, if people are complaining, if you get a ton of people complaining about, oh, your stuff is so expensive, but I don't think people do that. I think when people see what kind of work goes into a project, when they're looking at the videos, they're willing to pay for it. And if they're not willing to pay for it, they're willing to save for it. Or any of the big designers like you that I follow, it's exciting to see them list a journal and see them fly off the shelves right away, because that means there is a market for that kind of beauty, that people want to see those sorts of journals and they want to buy them. They don't want to just see them, they want to buy them. Yeah, when you've got a lot of the authentic materials in it, then that adds another whole layer. And there are people that only want stuff that has that kind of things into it. So, I mean, you've got people that want the style that you make, and that's why your stuff sells well. I'm so cheap. I don't go buy a lot of the old antique stuff. I buy some, but not a lot. It would be real easy just to go crazy buying a lot of the vintage ephemera, but I wish we had estate sales in this area. I mean, even pre-pandemic, they just weren't that popular here. Maybe, because I'm in the mountains, I'm in the country, maybe elsewhere. Oh, no way. We're going to have that argument, sister? Pistols at dawn. Pistols at dawn. Whoops. Well, now I have glue on my shirt. And see, I don't use a lot of antique stuff because, well, number one, it's hard to find the kind of stuff that I want. I would like to get more antique ephemera, but I want it nature related. And that's hard to find. I mean, I did get a really nice old book of trees, but I'm having a difficult time even knowing what to look for in the gazillions of listings on eBay. It's not like, I don't want a train ticket, which works really great in just a generic vintage journal, which I think I love the looks of that kind of stuff, but it doesn't work if I'm trying to do a nature journal. I don't know. I'm picky though. I'm really picky. If I'm going to spend the money on something like that, it's got to be something that I really, really love. That's too funny. Yeah, it'd be nice to be one of those one name people, you can say Tracy or Andrea or Gail and everybody knows who you're talking about. I don't anticipate that happening for me, but that's okay. And that's been a lesson for me. It has been a huge lesson. I had to learn it in my writing life and I had to learn it in my art life. I'm not going to be a household name, and that's okay. That is okay. I do me. And people on my design team are going to pass me up in knowledge, popularity and knowledge and that kind of stuff, and that's okay. I want them to succeed because it gives me energy to do me. They can't do me and I can't do them, but I had to make peace with that. Well, I always thought you were famous before we got to know each other a little better. Then I realized you're just like me. But I think in your circles, and I think in some ways we're more well known than we realize. And in other ways, yeah, not nearly as well known as we might want to be. I don't know. I just want to make my stuff. And I want people to like it. And I want people to like me. That's my biggest thing. I don't need to be famous as much as I want the people who know me to like me. Yeah, and I love that too. My brain seems to only be able to do a few things at a time. And so this, the studio clean out definitely does not play nice with the design. I keep opening up some of my unfinished kits and my brain says, nope, I can't go there while you're doing this other stuff. I don't know why. But it's so fascinating to me to see what people do with the stuff that we create. I mean, I had no idea that things like my eco prints would be so popular. And I have to give Tracy Fox credit for pushing me on that. She just kept pushing me to put them out there. I can't believe I just celebrated, just a couple weeks ago was my 1-year anniversary on my shop. So that just kind of blows my mind. And people have been so kind, and I'm very grateful for that. Yeah, famous is a lot of work. I have known some famous writers back in my publishing days, and it's a full-time job being famous, especially now with social media and so much contact that you're expected to keep with your adoring fans. Although once in a while, I will say in the writing world, it was kind of fun. I have one book that it was in print for about 10 years, and I'll still get emails from people once in a while that'll find me and say, I love that book. And I don't know, there's something about getting that kind of a fan letter that's pretty cool. I get them sometimes from the kits, but it's different. I don't know why. It's just different. But it's all wonderful. Like you, I just want to make my stuff and I want people to like them. And I love seeing what they do with them. I wish, more people shared, considering the number of kits that I have sold, I wish more people would share pictures, places, they don't necessarily have YouTube channels, but I always invite people to send me a picture of what they've done, but not many people do. Oh, okay. So, yeah, but you've got a lot. I've got to get my rear in gear and get my kits out there. I've only got 80 kits in the shop, but that's okay. I am working at my pace. And now that I think the studio is going to be much better set up for my working environment, I think that'll help. I did spend way too much time setting up the space the first time, and even now as I'm redoing it. But I'm enjoying it. My thing is, I know I need to do more interactions in the groups and with people, and it's hard. Sometimes because I'm slow at everything, it's hard to be active in the groups and get to know people and then still have time to do my work. I figure I have about 5 hours a day that I can get a lot of good work done, maybe 4. And of course, all bets are off if it's a migraine day. And so I just need to think about how I'm going to use that time. And I need to make sure the social media stuff needs to happen in the evenings when my brain's not being creative anymore. And I can't, there are so many things I can scan while the TV's on. I cannot work on kits while the TV's on. I can't design from scratch, but I can do the social media stuff. And that's what I need to do, is I need to tell myself that evening is my social media time. And yeah, we're not getting paid full-time wages, so it's kind of hard to do full-time work without that. So that's why we have to be doing the work that we love. We have got to love what we're working on. If we're not, then it's just not worth the time that we're putting in on all of it. Oh, I am making progress. I am. My stack down here on the floor is growing, so I'm happy with that. And get one more done. See, this was me. This was me. This was my book, Oliver's Must-Do List. I wonder if I have a cover of it somewhere. This was one of my books. I shouldn't say my book. There was many books. And this one's still in print. One of my most popular books is not in print anymore, but I have a gazillion copies in my garage. I need to see if I can find a home for. Oh, well, that's, yeah, it's good that you can find an upside to bed rest. It stinks that you have to have that time. But if you can make it work for you, then that's what matters, right? Yeah, Oliver's Must-Do List. That was a fun book. That was published by the same company that puts out Highlights magazine that a lot of people are familiar with. And of course, when I wrote it, it was not a animal. It was a human child. And then the illustrator did her thing with it, and it came out fabulous. See, and I used to do so when I was, in publishing. I mean, social media, of course, is what helped us, keep our books out there. And it was still kind of new. I mean, I remember when Twitter was brand new, and that was the thing for writers to get out there on Twitter. And it's still very popular for the publishing industry. But it was draining for an introvert like me. Being on places that have so much activity like Twitter was emotionally exhausting. I didn't want to talk that much, but I did it and I enjoyed it. But I was, I'm okay with not being on there as much, but I do need to do more with Facebook and Instagram. I'm really trying with Instagram, but Instagram and I do not play nice together. But I'm trying. It's just my phone. I'm very technology minded, but I am just not fluent on my phone because it's, for old fingers that don't work real well. The phone is not the easiest tool to use. I would rather be on the computer and using my laptop. Yeah, this might be the last one. Let's see. Because I'm not paying attention. I'm just doing these the same like this. It's going a little faster. But honestly, I don't see much of a dent. I think today I need to find a place to store these bases. That's what I need to do. I do have some empty shelves in the studio, which was really surprising to me to realize that I had some empty spaces. And then, I have a little bit of OCD, and it really comes up when I'm trying to figure out how to organize things in the studio because, I want them to be functional, but it also has to look nice. And I can't have too many things that are too different. So having a bunch of different baskets or containers, it was like visual noise to me. So I had to make things not complete matchy, but at least coordinating. But luckily, coming from a big house to a littler house, I have lots of things to choose from out in the garage. Yeah, my voice is about done. That's what you get when you do not bring your water with you so you can hydrate throughout the talking sessions. Yeah, that's okay. If nothing else, this has helped me make a decision that I want to find a place to store the bases. And I'll probably just toss the rest of the book text into the paper making bin. Because otherwise I could spend the next month just doing this sort of thing. And that does not seem like the best use of my time. Well, I mean, it would be useful, but not the best use. Not when there are so many journals I want to make. Whoops. And okay, maybe I can do one more. One more. Let's see if I can clean up what's on the desk with this last one here. Zip, zip, zip through it. And then we'll see how much progress I can make with the big cleanup. And then tomorrow, I'm going to start on one of the nature books. At least that's the plan. That's the plan in my head. If reality comes out that way, I'm going to be really happy. Sometimes life has other plans. Hey, Patty. Oh, thank you. I am just kind of gluing lazily today because I thought I could knock a lot of these out. Hopefully next week I'll do something a little bit more fun to watch. What are you working on today? I know Carla used to always say that gluing was very relaxing for her. I don't know that I find it relaxing, but it's a job that has to get done sometimes. Hey, Shelby, take care. Thanks for hanging with me during your work day. Have a good rest of your week. Oh, Lorna, you like to use Yes Paste? What are you using that on covers or what? Tell me, because I have a bottle or a jar. It doesn't come in a bottle. A jar of Yes Paste that's almost completely full. So far, the only thing I really like using it on is putting it on a substrate and then ironing my napkins. It's really good for that. But it's not my favorite thing to use in a lot of other areas. So I'm curious to know what you use it for. Ah, okay. To make tags, yeah. Yeah, I've got 2 big bins of napkins and I want to start using them up. And the Yes Paste has held really well when you put it on any paper, let it dry, and then iron your napkin to it, you have no wrinkles. And, you know, I can't pull it apart. So I'm really impressed with the hold power on that. So I think I'm going to back a bunch of DigiPages with some of my napkins. That way, I just want to use up the Yes paste. Yeah, I was going to do tags today. I was going to collage my tags, and I just, I really wanted to get some of these knocked out. It's nice to have just something kind of mind relaxing to do before bed. I tend to watch YouTube videos before bed, just wanting to get inspired so that my subconscious can come up with some great things for me to work on while I'm sleeping. I give myself a little suggestion. It's like, okay, figure out how you're going to make this thing work. I found more of that Aliens tacky glue in the garage a few weeks ago. I was so frustrated to find that. So it's just becoming my base layer thing. When I'm using anything really wet, I water it way down. I don't like to use on the top layer because it comes out kind of glossy. All right, home stretch, home stretch. We can do this. Wow, and it's going to be right about my time frame too that I like to stay at. I just spend so much time overthinking. It's like I got out a bunch of napkins. I'm thinking, okay, so I'll glue these down with the Yes paste, you know, iron thing. And then I started thinking about, oh, well, I should save this one for this journal, and I should save this one for this journal. And then I talked myself right back out of it again. It was ridiculous. So that's the one thing about this particular type of gluing is you can just sort of make yourself keep going and not think about a finished product. And just cover up the page. Whoops. Almost. I can see the end of the tunnel. It doesn't want to stay. All right, I'm still going to do one more right there. And these will be some fun book covers. Everybody's talented. Don't ever fall into the compare trap, says the girl who falls into the compare trap at least once a week. But don't fall into the compare trap, because we're all talented. We all have got some great ideas, and it's wonderful that we can inspire one another. But we all have we all create based on, you know, what we've been through in our lives too. I think we bring some of that, like, if I could make entire journals using nothing but book text, I might do it, just because I spent so many years as a writer, that words just are my go-to. I mean, it's just, still haven't figured out how I'm going to get my words into my journals the way I want to, but everybody's talented. What it takes is the courage to just go out there and create. And, you know, it takes as much time to be creative and scared as it does to be creative and have fun playing. So go out there and have a good time with it. All right, let's see how many I got done today. I can grab them all up from the floor, which might be tricky. 1, 2. Let's see here. And then we have 3, 4, 5. Oh, more than I thought. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, 11. I feel better about this already. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Even though it's an even number, I'm okay with that. So that is step 1 to me being able to make these. Yeah, Yes Place is just way too sticky to play with as far as I'm concerned. I don't like it. And it is not a competition. That's a good one to end with. Art is not a competition. It's supposed to be our happy place. So thank you all for joining me in my happy place today while I worked on these book cover bases. And I will see you next Wednesday, same bat time, same bat channel. Thanks so much for watching. Go out and create something wonderful and be kind to one another. All right? Take care. Bye for now.